Alright, we're picking it up here. Finishing off this chapter of Germany and the Holy Roman Empire at Love Clark here. Okay. We were on the spirit of Charlemagne. We were talking about the seventh head and how millions are going to be killed. And it's mostly because they're ignorant. Now, the spirit of Charlemagne. What is happening in the Eastern superstate is a mystery to most of the world, but that mystery is beginning to be removed. Bernard Connolly wrote a bombshell book in 1995 entitled The Rotten Heart of Europe. For years he served at the heart of the exchange rate mechanism for the European Union. He headed the commission unit responsible for monitoring and serving the system. He labels the European superstate as rotten. Why so? It is the battle for control of the European superstate, Mr. Connolly wrote, in which French technocrats confront German federalists, both sides claiming to fight under the banner of Charlemagne. The collateral damage from this little battle lies mainly in the future, but it could be ghastly. Who is going to get control of this great superstate? The battle can be narrowed down to two nations, France and Germany. Do knowledgeable people really doubt who will win this battle? The nation that controls the money will reign supreme. Across the Rhine, successive German governments have, in their pursuit of a European cloak for German ambitions, been prepared to accept an apparent secession of national monetary authority as long as the new European monetary authority looks, sounds, smells, and acts exactly as the German monetary authority now does. The EU system has already been called a Trojan horse. Mr. Connolly says it is a cloak for German ambitions. Just what are those ambitions? The Bundesbank began to use this opportunity to the full, overturning its obligation to support the general economic policy of the government. In 1966, it deliberately engineered a recession that dethroned the Chancellor. Ludwig Erhard, who is a finance minister, had overridden Bundesbank's objections to Deutschmark re-evaluation in 1961. The Bundesbank president of the time, Karl Blessing, commented with evident satisfaction that we had to use brute force to put things in order, a formula not very different from those used by leaders of the military in third world countries who summarily dispose of uppity civilian leader before returning to barracks. Depose an uppity civilian leader before returning to barracks, okay? It did not go unnoticed that the man who replaced Erhard, George Kissinger, was, like many prominent figures in the Bundesbank at the time, a former Nazi Party member, however much or little significance that fact may have. Here, he discusses just one German institution. In 1966, the Bundesbank had many prominent figures who were Nazis. Does this give us some idea of where the European superstate is headed? Are we afraid to face this book's truth of what is happening in Germany and Europe? Do we fear to face Bible prophecy? The Nazis know how to use brute force to put things in order, and not just in the finance system. We are all aware of Hitler's Third Reich. Mr. Connolly labels the Empire of Charlemagne as the First Reich. Most of the the EU leaders are working to recreate the Empire of Charlemagne. It was no coincidence that the Belgian government housed the offices and meeting rooms of the EU Council of Ministers in the Charlemagne building in Brussels. It was no coincidence either that Giscard and Schmidt agreed to accept the Belgian compromise proposal at a bilateral summit in September 1978 at Aachen, principal seat and burial place of Charlemagne. The symbolism was heavily underlined in France and Germany. The two leaders paid a special visit to the throne of Charlemagne, and a special service was held in the cathedral at the end of the summit. Giscard remarked that perhaps when we discussed monetary problems, the spirit of Charlemagne brooded over us. The spirit of Charlemagne has returned. This past king who ruled the First Reich had to wade through a sea of blood to achieve his goal of ruling Europe. The big question remains unanswered. In the new empire of Charlemagne, who would play Charlemagne? Exactly the same question implicit and left unanswered at Maastricht. Soon the world will know who the modern Charlemagne is to be. You can be sure he will have Germany's stamp of approval. His actions will shock the world far more than the original Charlemagne. He will lead the world into the greatest sea of blood that humanity has ever seen or even dreamed about. Whether we realize it or not, the Fourth Reich has arrived. Alright, you guys. That's it. Chapter 5, Germany and Prophecy. Look at that. And get your bags and go. Get your bags and go, woman. Woo-wee. Man, that's crazy. I'd hate to see that in America. Alright. That's it. Chapter 5, Germany and Prophecy. Okay?